In Michigan for a very key hearing this morning in the case of accused killer Dale Warner. He's accused of murdering his wife, Dee. And you might recall us reporting that his stepson recently got arrested in connection to the case as well. Scripps News Detroit has more.
Well, I've been hoping he'd been arrested for quite a while because I've always believed that he had information.
Greg Hardy is Dee Warner's brother. The mother of 5 was last seen near her home in Tecumseh back in 2021. Dee's family say they believe she was a victim of domestic abuse. After years of searching for her body, in August of 2024, police found Dee's remains in a sealed tank on her husband Dale Warner's property in Lenawee County. I spoke to Hardy back in August when his sister's remains were found.
It was relieving that we finally accomplished something after 3.5 years of a really steep uphill climb.
Dale was charged with Dee's murder, and he is currently awaiting trial. Now his son has been arrested and is expected to be arraigned on Monday. It's not clear what his son will be charged with.
There is a need to make sure that these people pay for what they've done.
Hardy says he and the rest of Dee's family are hoping justice will come soon in Dee's murder.
I mean, there's not been justice yet because there's been no conviction. And now we have another potential. Well, we have an arrest, we know that for sure, but we have to figure out exactly what these charges are going to be.
Greg Hardy tells me he plans to be at every court hearing that has to deal with his sister's murder. Now, Dale Warner says he has nothing to do with his wife's murder. His trial is expected to start in September. In the newsroom, Tiara Braddock, 7 News Detroit.
All right, so there we have it. We're getting ready for Dale's motions hearing this morning. And in the meantime, we have a dear friend of Dee Warner's on the program with us. Kathryn Adams is with us outside of the courthouse where this hearing is going to be held. Kathryn, good morning to you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
First of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. You know, I know it's been some time, and we were talking about Dee being killed back in April of 2021, and it seems like the wheels of justice have turned slowly, but finally they're moving. Let's go back in time, if we can, please, Kathryn. What's your relationship with Dee? Tell us, how long have you known her? What kind of a person was she?
I have known Dee actually my whole life. Our families go back for generations. She babysat my brother and I when we were little, and my mom actually babysat her. She was in my grandma's 4-H club, and our families have just been friends forever. She was a very strong-willed, independent, fiery, just amazing friend, and honestly, we considered her family. She actually helped me adopt my daughter. And she was the one that was always in your corner, always fighting for the people she loved.
Oh boy, that's wonderful to hear those things about her. And I know that the day that she disappeared, April the 25th of 2021, she had told a friend that she was going to meet up with her husband. No one thought anything of that, but then she was never seen or heard from since then. Fast forward to now, husband's charged. And then husband's son, Dee's stepson, is charged with assisting after the fact and some tampering with evidence in the case. Kathryn, did you suspect Dale from the outset?
Honestly, yes. I know I was one of the few that was a little skeptical of him right out of the gate, but I would say it was pretty early on for me, because his lack of participation in trying to find her or figure out what was going on, to me, was a huge red flag. About a week after her disappearance on May 1st, we had a friends and family search. We started at her farm, and then we went through my grandparents' property over to Hardy's, her brothers, and then even some property across the road, and Dale did not participate at all. So obviously, you know, that's, you know, poster child of guilt, in my opinion.
Sure. You know, and that might be something the prosecutors use in his trial to show consciousness of guilt. They may say the fact that he wasn't at all interested in helping or finding his beautiful wife. Tell me, Kathryn.
Exactly, yeah.
What was their relationship like, Dee and Dale?
It was definitely tumultuous. They fought a lot. It was a lot of yelling. It was a lot of arguing. Obviously, you know, they spent a lot of time together, being that they owned a lot of businesses. She was in the office most of the time, and Dale was outside, you know, kind of being the grunt, I guess, for lack of better terms. But when they were near each other, there was always tension, always. I feel like when we were young and they first started, you know, their relationship, it might have been a little happier. There were happy times. I mean, they did go on vacations and stuff like that, and you could always tell that there was tension even during those times. You could sense it.
Was she afraid of him?
I wouldn't necessarily say she was afraid of him, like, as far as physical harm, but I can say she was afraid of him as far as, like, having to go through another divorce, dividing the businesses, you know, all that kind of stuff that comes along with divorce, custody, assets, that kind of thing.
So, Kathryn, had Dee previously been married and divorced once? Was this her second marriage to Dale?
Yes, this was her second marriage. She had 4 children in her first marriage. They were married quite a long time, and then she had divorced him and then married Dale.
Oh, our hearts go out to her 4 kids, that's for sure. Tell me, was she contemplating divorce from Dale prior to her going missing?
Yes, she was. Yes, she had contemplated divorce several times, but I would say that this time was different because she was more, like, active in proceeding with it. She was talking about selling the trucking company. She was talking about, you know, actually doing it, you know, talking to lawyers and all that kind of stuff.
Do you know if they were still living together at the time?
Yes.
They were?
They were.
Okay.
She slept on the couch a lot, though. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe a little bit of physical separation, but still in the same home that they had been living in for all these years. Now, when you've been around Dale since Dee's disappearance, how has he behaved?
To be honest, strangely friendly. Before he was arrested, I actually was at a traffic light right around the corner from their home where we had the Justice for Dee billboard, and he was in the mirror. I looked in my mirror, and he was just waving away, and you know, he had ran into, you know, like my parents and stuff at like local gas stations, and you know, he was friendlier than he's ever been. I mean, prior to this, he was not really around a whole lot. Like if, you know, we were there, he would just kind of go find something to do, and then this happened, and he was very overly, like, exerting himself into everything, really. It was very strange.
That's interesting. We know Dee's body was found on their family property in August of 2024. Dale was charged shortly after that, and then we know his son, Jaron Warner, just charged recently. He's 28 years old and charged with tampering with evidence. Police are saying he did some assisting with his dad after the fact with this crime. Tell me, Kathryn, what did you think when you heard about Jaron's arrest?
Well, I am surprised that it was Jaron. I'm not surprised that there was somebody arrested that, you know, obviously assisted Dale. I am surprised with Jaron. Jaron is a very smart young man. He is college educated. He's always done very well for himself academically and professionally. So that was kind of a shock. I honestly, I don't even know words to say on that one. It's just a shock, really.
Sure. Well, I can tell how shocked you are, Kathryn. And he was supposed to be in court this morning, and that was continued. Of course, now they're going to be co-defendants, father and son co-defendants. Right. When we go to trial, I always say, you know, what we're seeing in the courthouse, in the courtroom, isn't always the entire picture. Lawyers are bound by certain rules and things that part of the stories just can't always get in front of the jury, and that's just the way it is. What parts of this story do you think are important to understand, Kathryn, as we get ready for trial?
I think it's really important to understand how much work the friends and family and Dee's immediate family especially had to go through to get to this point. We started out, our group on Facebook called Justice for Dee in the very beginning, about 6 months after she went missing, just to create awareness that she was missing, that there were a lot of things going on that, were throwing red flags in the investigation. And, we were, for lack of a better term, I guess, battling the Lenawee County Sheriff's Department with, what are you doing with this? What are you doing with that? And we eventually had vigils, and we ended up having rallies at the courthouse to have the case turned over to the Michigan State Police, and that is ultimately what got us here. We had a private investigator, Billy Little, that put in a ton of work to help get us here also. So we've really been on the ground pounding for 4 years, and it's been a lot of work, and it's been exhausting. And something crazy that I would like to point out is that the Lenawee County Sheriff's Department were made aware of the tank that she was found in August of last year. They were made aware of that tank the first week she went missing. So
really,
I think that I think that our efforts were definitely necessary now that we know what we know, even just with that little bit of information.
So let's back up for a second, please, Kathryn. So Dee's body was found in what is an ammonia tank, ordinarily.
Anhydrous.
Yeah, an anhydrous ammonia tank. It was empty, but she was found in there. We're looking at some video of one right now, so our viewers can see it watching at home. How do you know police were made aware of this tank?
So the Hardys, Greg Hardy and Parker Hardy, noticed some suspicious behavior the first week. He had brought the tank in, and it was in an area that didn't really necessarily make sense. He was working on it near the chemical barn versus actually taking it into the shop where all the welding equipment was to actually repair this tank. So they did make the investigator of the time aware of that, and asked that they check it out, and he did. And we actually, in pre-trial, saw some chest camera footage of them talking to Dale. And we also know that he did take photos that day. The investigator did. He took photos of the tank, but it ended there. He didn't, really press it, I guess. And then Dale moved the tank to another property that they owned.
Wow. So is it your understanding, Kathryn, that the investigator didn't look inside of it?
That's correct. And looking inside of an anhydrous tank isn't as simple as, opening it up and looking down inside. There would have had to have been some work, but something he could have done was, like what the Michigan State Police ultimately did. They found suspicious welds because anhydrous tanks are welded by a machine because, they have to hold gas. And, if you have welds that are done by a person, you're going to notice some defects. And the investigator from the Sheriff's Department absolutely could have done that and saw that there was something suspicious and could have went from there.
Oh my, I thank you for pointing that out. That was something we certainly did not know. It's frustrating, I'm sure, because she was right there on the property the whole time. And so that's really upsetting. But she was discovered eventually in August of 2024. Yes. So, a little over 3 years from the time she disappeared. And you've done a tremendous job with the advocacy, Kathryn. Is there anything else you think that's important to know before we let you go? I want to continue the conversation another day, but as we get ready for today, anything else about this case you think the public needs to hear?
Well, obviously I want to thank the public, because I think that without the public and the media, I'm not sure that we would be here. We obviously had to put a lot of pressure to get, the case turned over and ultimately an arrest. I mean, we still have a lot of ground to go through. We don't have a conviction. So just if everyone can just stick with us, we really appreciate it. And obviously, prayers and well wishes for her children would be amazing.
Most definitely. Kathryn Adams, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. We look forward to talking with you another day.